Hey, what's up, everybody? What's up? What's up? It's Cliff Elome here. Hey, I wanted to get on here real quick and just talk a little bit about the rent. As you know, I mean, everybody's been noticing now that the rent has been increasing. Rent has been increasing for a couple months now. And now that the eviction moratorium has been overturned, and now unemployment is no longer there, and unemployment is ended. A couple things that you're going to start to see if you haven't seen it now or yet. All the job markets, there could be a possibility people starting to rush in the job markets, trying to rush in to get some of these available jobs that they have because they said there was so much available jobs. Secondly, rent, right? With the eviction, all these things, people might need places to live, which I don't know how people are going to be able to get them because of the increase of rent. Not only the increase of rent, but everything that they need now. You know, they're asking for more things when it comes to rent. They're asking for first, they're asking for last, they're asking for security. So I mean, if the rent is $1,700, this is just an example. If your rent is $1,700, you need 1,700 times 3. Okay. Now, a lot of people don't have that, right? Especially if they were backed up in rent over there in their last place and they got evicted. So that's number one. You got evicted. Number one. Number two, you don't have the money to get into another place. So that's going to put you in a crazy situation. So we're really pretty much going to see a crazy situation going on here now, right? Food prices are up. Gas is up. Gas prices are up. Supply chain is low. There's a shortage supply chain. But really, I wanted to get on here, right? I really wanted to get on this video and make this video because I wanted to. This is like maybe a message for the landlords. Okay, now landlords really got, listen. I'm for the people. I'm a people's person. I'm the underdog. I'm with the underdog. I'm for the underdog. So I understand these people that couldn't pay rent because they weren't able to go out, and we had lockdown, and this whole pandemic, and it forced us to a lot of things. And now you have this eviction thing where they overturned it, right? And then the money that they gave out to help these people, it's not being dispersed as quickly enough, or not at all. So I get that for sure. Like I'm 100% with the people that are going through those kind of things. Now, the landlords also have been going through some things as well, because some of them haven't been able to receive rent for at least 12 to 18 months, right? They haven't been able to receive any rent, and some of these landlords are mom and pop landlords. What that means is that they have maybe 1 or 2, 3 properties, and these properties have mortgages on them, right? And they rented them out because they were looking for a cash producing income producing property investment, and they weren't able to pay mortgage, or they had to take out savings or mortgage, or they had to go in forbearance or something. Okay. Whatever it is, they're taking a loss as well. A lot of these mom and pops, not the corporate. I'm not talking about these corporate people, because they got that money. Okay, regardless, they got that money and they got that PPP. Believe it or not, that's something that people are not telling you, is that a lot of these corporate people, they got PPP. A lot of these people got PPP. All right, and they were able to sustain with the PPP, or at least get a little bit of money. Okay, but this is advice for landlords right now, because I understand a lot of these landlords, they missed out on a lot of money. They're backed up. Now that they're able to evict, they're going to increase the rent, right, to what the increase is now. Okay, so for instance, if a 2-bedroom, this is just an example for educational purposes, if a 2-2 was $1,200, $1,300, now it's like $1,700, $1,800. So they're going to increase it. So here's the problem that I have with that, and here's a message to landlords right now, a tip for landlords, right? Honestly, listen, if you're a landlord, I get where you're coming from. I understand completely where you're coming from. But you gotta start thinking logical. If you increasing rent, right? And you're asking for first months, last month, security, all this and that and the third. Okay, that's cool. You can get people, right? Okay, you either your house, your rental is going to stay on the market for a little while until you get the right person, or you're gonna get somebody that's gonna have the money. They're gonna give you some credentials, right? You're gonna put them in, and then 4 months, 6 months, they're not gonna be able to afford it, or something else can happen, right? Where they can lose their job, or there can be another lockdown, which I believe that's gonna happen, right? And guess what? Now you got this high rent that they can't even afford. They probably couldn't even afford it in the first place, right? Because listen, believe it or not, listen, I know this because I've dealt with people like this. There are people that they can give you credentials that are not valid, okay? So they can tell you they make $60,000, $70,000 a year, right? Produce paperwork that probably isn't theirs, just so they can get their foot in the door, okay? So they probably couldn't afford it. Maybe you had a little cash for everything that you wanted, like, you know, all your security first and last. Maybe they had it just to get their foot in the doors, right? And once they got their foot in the doors, they're barely making it every month, okay? And now with the rent increase, you're talking about a whole different caliber. Now, my suggestion, right, for a lot of these landlords is to stabilize your rent. Keep it to a medium. I'm not saying don't, because I understand you want to benefit, but you got to look at the long term instead of the short term, okay? Stabilize your rent. Don't keep it like high. Don't keep it high. I'm not saying to keep it low, but stabilize it somewhere in the middle, okay? So if there's a 2-2, okay, 2 bedroom, 2 bath that you were renting out for $1,200, I could understand if you could increase it maybe 100, 150, 200 tops, $1,400. But we're talking about, if you're talking about $500 extra, right? You got to look at the long term. You got to look at the long term. A lot of these people are not going to be able to afford it 5 months in, okay? So you're going to be looking at another situation in your hands, and now you're going to have to dish out more money for eviction again, okay? What would you rather have? Stabilized rent, where you can have a tenant long term, a year, 2 years, 3 years. 2 years is, you know, pretty much the minimum. Or you could have stabilized rent, like I said, stabilized rent, where if you stabilize it, you can have your tenant there long term, okay? 2 years is, you know, pretty much, you know, the minimum or maximum, whatever. Or you can have a tenant in there paying that full, that increased rent that's going on right now, right? And you know, you'll be sitting good for 4 or 5 months, and then after that, your tenant can no longer afford it. Okay, and then you have to do an eviction, or you have to start the process all over again. And how many times do you want to do that, right? And I'm pretty sure a lot of these mom and pops places, landlords, you guys don't want to do that. You guys don't want to go through that hassle, right? You guys want to have, you know, steady income coming in. If you have a mortgage in place on the property, you want to make sure that the mortgage is being paid, and you want to make sure that you have enough, you know, a little extra money in your pocket, right? Because that's the whole purpose of purchasing, you know, an investment property, right? So that you can get some income coming in, right? So that's my advice. That's pretty much my advice to the landlords, you know, that are thinking about increasing their rent, right? I know that you guys are upset. I get it. You missed out on a lot of money, but you have to look at the long term. Don't look at the short term, because honestly, listen, this might not hold for quite that long. This might not hold for much longer. Okay? So you could be looking at something completely different. We don't know what's going to happen in the next month or month. We don't know what's going to happen in the next 2 months, right? Because everything, they took away the eviction moratorium. Unemployment is done. A lot of these other things are finished, okay? And now, what do we have, right? What do people have now, right? You know, things don't make sense. They have to add up. It has to make sense. Okay, well, this is the perfect time to increase the rent because now rent is up. Don't think like that. Think like, hey, look, listen, I do want to increase my rent, but I don't want it to be to a point where it doesn't make sense 5 to 6 months later, or maybe even 2 months later. I need to stabilize somehow. So I could be ahead of the game. While these other people that have increased all these rent have to worry about now an eviction again because their tenants couldn't afford it. They never could afford it in the first place. Because right now there's going to be a lot of tricky things going on, okay, that you have to really be aware of. And listen, it's going to be hard to not see them, right? It's going to be hard to see them. It's going to be hard to see them because, listen, they counterfeit everything. Anytime something comes out, everything counterfeits. People do whatever they have to do to survive. Okay, I'm not saying that it's right. It's not right. But this is what we are. You know, this is what people are going through. Okay? So this is a message for the tenants, man. Stabilize your rent. This is the best outcome. Look for the long term, not the short term. Stabilizing your rent, right, is going to be the best bet for you to succeed or have that tenant in there for 2 years, right? Paying stabilized rent. While these other people that are maximizing their rent, 5 months later, they're in a hole again. Okay, so this is a message to the landlords. This is a tip that I wanted to give to the landlords. If you like the video, again, please subscribe it. Like, subscribe, and subscribe so I can create more content. The more you like, the more you subscribe, the more I can do this every day. All right? Hey, this is Cliff checking out. You have a great day.